Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 257, Lysis Conclusions. When we remove the erotic framing of the dialogue, we find that we are left with two main movements concerning philia. In the first movement, Socrates is talking with Lysis on his own, obviously with all of the bystanders listening, but the conversation is only with Lysis because Menexenus has been invited or summoned to a ceremony outside in the courtyard. And in the second movement, Menexenus has returned, and the conversation alternates between Menexenus and Lysis, but mainly with Menexenus. The content of the two movements is very different. Interestingly, when Socrates sums up the arguments at the end of the dialogue, he refers only to the second movement. This could be attributed to the fact that Menexenus didn't know about the first movement, but I would also say that the arguments of the second movement are all of a piece. They all go to show that they don't know what philia is. We have to be careful about saying things like Plato has proved that philia doesn't exist, or that Socrates doesn't think that we know very much, because Socrates always claims that he knows nothing. This is false, but this is what people say. And in fact, Socrates isn't proving anything. He is asking questions, and he responds to the answers the boys give him. Admittedly, Socrates does ask leading questions, and we may even say that he asks eristic questions, or at least sophistic ones. He is deliberately trying to confuse the boys, as he says later on that they are as if drunk. The first line of questioning with Menexenus leads to the conclusion that a friend is not the one who loves, is not the one who is loved, and is not the only one in a relationship to love. It can't happen if the other one isn't a friend. But then it is also concluded that even when both are supposedly friends, they are not friends. It's at this point that Lysis interrupts and is embarrassed by interrupting. He thinks that the argument has gone wrong somewhere. This isn't his own view. He's simply responding to a question Socrates asks. Socrates is the one who asks whether they have been arguing correctly. The subsequent argument with Lysis leads to the conclusion that a good person won't be the friend of a good person because good people are self-sufficient and need no further help. Therefore, the good are not friends with the good. Obviously, the bad are not friends with the bad. This is how awful the argument is. We are given questions, but Lysis answers without really thinking too much. This is not the philosophical way to arrive at a correct answer regarding friendship. All we have here are the impressions a boy has from the questions he's being asked. He simply answers what seems to be correct to him, and this is how we really should understand the conclusions. These are not the conclusions of Plato or Socrates, but of the boys in this dialogue, and even there the boys don't necessarily agree. Eventually we find that similar people cannot be friends, dissimilar people cannot be friends, and eventually, when Socrates is talking again to Menexenus, we get to the absurd position that it is only the neither good nor bad, the neutral, which can be a friend to the good, as if the neither good nor bad is not dissimilar to the good. In eristic thinking, what is dissimilar to the good is the bad. Therefore, it does sound as though the neither bad nor good is not dissimilar to the good. In addition to this, the neither good nor bad regards the good as a friend only when the neither good nor bad has something bad in it, but is not yet completely bad because of that thing. The first example given for this was the body. The body is neither good nor bad, and it is only when it has something bad in it, a disease, that it then looks to the medical art as a friend. And that is for the purpose of removing the disease. If the body waits too long, the disease will take over the body and the whole body will become bad. But at the moment, the body is not bad. It simply has something bad in it. This is already a problematic example. We could try to make it philosophical by saying that someone who is neither completely knowledgeable or completely ignorant, but has some ignorance in him, will find the educational, whatever that might be, the teacher or the information, that is a friend to the slightly ignorant person, because then the slightly ignorant person can learn. It's a commonplace in Greek philosophy that the person who knows everything cannot learn, and the person who is completely ignorant cannot learn. The only person who could learn already knows some things and can add to that body of knowledge or understanding. To say that this is an argument about philia is a bit of a stretch. Then we have the other example of the neither good nor bad, and this is the son of a father, and he ingests something bad, which is hemlock, and the father then decides to remedy the hemlock with wine. And for that time only, wine becomes a friend to the son. And not only that, but the wine glass itself becomes a friend, because without the wine glass there can be no wine, and the son would die. This, again, is a ridiculous argument. It has nothing to do with friendship, but we may begin to wonder whether Socrates is talking about something else altogether. This is the impression I get when Socrates then goes on to talk about intoxication. We are drunk from these arguments which have made us dizzy. But who is the person who has been supplying the alcohol? Socrates himself. Without Socrates, no one would have been puzzled. No one was asking any questions. It's only Socrates who makes people puzzled. Now, the other thing is, Socrates says that we are puzzled, but if you look at them, they don't react. Nobody here is puzzled. Even Socrates really isn't puzzled. He pretends to be. He's the one creating the puzzles. But the boys, by the end, are only going through the motions of replying. They say, yes, Socrates, no, Socrates, whatever you want, Socrates. They're not really thinking. Socrates asks them a few questions towards the end, which, had they been following the argument from the beginning, they would have remembered they couldn't possibly answer in the positive, and Socrates has to remind them that they can't answer in that way if they had remembered the earlier argument. The last argument of the conversation is the worst. This is where Socrates has been talking about desire for some reason. This has nothing to do with friendship. And he points out that desire is for something which one has lost, and one will only lose what belongs to one. And this is how we get to the idea of the oikeon, the thing which is original to someone, something which is proper to someone. Just as an arm is proper to a body, if we were to lose an arm, we would desire it. As I said last time, Socrates then applies this to Menexenus and Lysis, who are supposedly friends. They are proper to each other. Were they to be deprived of each other, they would desire each other. They would want to get back to being the whole. This is all very well, but then Socrates confuses the desiring with the desired and ends up saying that the erastes therefore is proper to the eromenos, the one desired, the one lusted after. This is an extremely bad argument, because if the one desired actually did lose the one desiring, the one desired would no longer be the one desired. This is a ridiculous argument, but it allows Socrates to say, therefore, Lysis, the eromenos, the one lusted after, must love the erastes, because the erastes, the luster, is proper to the one lusted. Hippothales, of course, loved this argument. We can imagine that the unknown audience also loved this argument. But then Socrates does something very strange. The dialogue continues as he tells his unknown audience what happened after the conversation was broken up. And what he says should unsettle the boys and the unknown audience.